I'm going to go to John, the 5th chapter, the chapter after the parable of the Samaritan woman, where we were last week, where we encountered a good leader. This week, we're going to definitely see the leader at work again, but in slightly different manner. John 5, and I'm going to start at the first verse. And it reads, "After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, some paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whoever so then first after the troubling of the water stepped in was made whole of whatever disease he had. And a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. When Jesus saw him lie and knew that he had been now a long time in that case, he said unto him, Wilt thou be made whole? Remember this. The impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man when the water is troubled to put me into the pool, but while I am coming, another steppeth down before me. Jesus said unto him, Rise, take up thy bed, and walk. And immediately the man was made whole, and took up his bed, and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath. The Jews therefore said unto him that was cured, It is the Sabbath day. It is not lawful for thee to carry thy bed. He answered them, He that made me whole, the same said unto me, Take up thy bed and walk. Then they said to him, What man is it that said to thee, Take up thy bed and walk? And he that was healed wist not who it was. He didn't know who it was, for Jesus had conveyed himself away, a multitude being in that place. Afterward Jesus finding him in the temple, and said unto him, Behold, thou art made whole, sin no more, lest a worse thing come to thee. The man departed, and told the Jews that it was Jesus which had made him whole. And if I may, just for a moment, if I could say one thing, I would simply say, level up. Here lies your faith. When I say lies, I literally mean Lies. These are things which we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel important, to feel valued, to feel like we fit. When many times our lies are nothing more than just excuses to validate why we haven't done something. I want to shine a little light for a few moments. And I'm going to start here where it says there was a great multitude of impotent folk. 5 porches. Plenty of folks in a similar state as yourself. But the one thing I have a problem with in this whole parable is some say he was invalid. Some say that he was paralyzed. But it never said that his mouth didn't work. It didn't say that he didn't speak to God. It didn't say that he couldn't speak things into existence. It said that he couldn't make it into the pool in time. Sometimes we put ourselves in an excuse situation when in reality we just need to open our mouths to get out of it. Here lies your faith. Meaning, what excuse are you going to use next that your faith isn't enough? See, he was in a position of laying on a mat. And he'd been here beside the pool for 38 years. It didn't say that he was 38 years old. It said he had been in this position for 38 years. And every time he tried at the season of which the water was troubled, he wasn't able to make it in. But here in this particular season, Jesus himself happened to come by. And he already knew the man's state. He knew his state of mind. He knew his position. He even knew what his disposition was, the thing which held him there. But he never brought up what held him there. He simply asked him, "Wilt thou be made whole?" He simply asked him, "Do you want to come out of your excuses? Do you want to come out of your lies? Do you want to come out of your withered, paralyzed, immobilized, invalid state to be made whole again?" Meaning, do you want to be accepted back into the flock? Because see, even in this, it shows us something. In Psalm, it reads, verse 7, it says, "Sir." And normally, if you know the voice of the Lord, you call him your friend. Which tells me that there was not a relationship with the Father. There was a relationship with what he was trying to get to, but he thought he could do it himself. And when the Father showed up, he didn't realize that the Father was standing there with his gift. But instead of saying yes to the question, he'd rather give his excuses why he couldn't get it himself. It wasn't for him to get himself. It was for him to apply the faith that he initially had to the situation that would get him out of this dispensation. What are you saying? We don't apply our faith enough in situations thinking it's too small when he says, "I need mustard seed size faith." We don't speak things enough simply because he said, "If you ask, it shall be given." We don't speak enough because he says, if you speak things as if they already were, they will come into existence. That's a loose phrase, but ultimately, if you believe what you speak, you and your destiny will meet one day. And the more that you speak it, here we in Vision Board season, if you speak it all the more, and you read it all the more, if you write it down all the more, it'll come to pass because you start to believe it. So now it gets out of your head and into your heart, and it becomes a discipleship action of following. So where's your faith? Is it lying here in state? Because he was lying in state of non-movement, immobility. He didn't matter. Nothing he did matter. Can you imagine being in a state of helplessness or even hopelessness, of not being healed of something that you had and carried around for 38 years? I want to tell you, I'm 38 years old. In a few months, I'll be 39. But I cannot imagine toting something around for 38 years, not having a connection to my Father, who could easily, in the twinkling of an eye or the snap of a finger, change it.
Yeah. That's good.
That's what just happened. But instead, we rather tote it around by ourselves. We not speak to the multitude of people who may have the same problem as us. We never talk about our situation simply because of pride. We never talk about things because of lust. And sometimes we get in position simply because of self. But if we ever remove self out of the situation and look at God for who he is, look at Jesus for what he is, the ultimate healer. He is the whole reason for faith. You'll catch it after a while. Why is it that we would need faith? Why is it we would have to believe in something that didn't exist? He's the whole purpose for faith. Because you'll get to where you're going if you believe it. Listen, let's go. For 38 years, he was invalid. He laid beside a pool. He laid beside his healing. He laid beside his future. He laid beside his destiny. He even laid aside his faith, meaning pushed it away, because every time he tried and then succeed, he got further and further away, because it puts you in a place where I can't make it on my own. I can't do it by myself. But here it is if he just opens his mouth. I said, God, you mean to tell me in all of them 38 years he ain't mumbled not one word to nobody? Can you help me? I can't make it on my own, but can you help me? I can't do it by myself. Can you help me? Sometimes our faith may fail us, but if we have a crowd around us that support us and know that when we apply it in the right place, the end result, they can get it too. Because do you know, God could have healed everybody in that place, but he chose that one. Sometimes he makes us out of an example for others to look and see. Because even the Jews at the end, they were mad simply because it was the Sabbath. But here it is, you're mad because it's the Sabbath, and the man got healed, not trying to find out what you need for your own healing.
My God.
Why be mad at somebody else's healing when you got the same opportunity? The best part about it, we never needed the water. We needed the faith to come out of our mouth to attach and to come to me. That part of the faith. That's the part that heals us. That's the part that keeps us stored and restored. That's the part that brings our destiny into existence. It's that part of faith that pulls down things that we don't see that we've been asking for. It's that part in faith that cancels debt. It clears up relationships and it opens up communications. It's that part of faith that gives us opportunities that are supernatural simply because we are sometimes in places that doors are closed that we know are not going to be open unless God does it.
Oh my God.
That's faith applied. But where's your faith lie? I'm asking, can we level up our faith? Because there are some things that the kingdom needs out of us. But we're lying by the pool, waiting to be filled, waiting to be healed, when all we need is a touch from God, a connection to God. That's all that we're in need of. But we think there's some mechanics that got to happen in the water. We think there's some mechanics that got to happen on the job for the position. We think there's some mechanics that really have to happen for the child to get right. We think there's some mechanics for the family to come back together when many times you just need to speak it out of your mouth.
Yes, God. Mama.
That's good.
We haven't learned to apply our faith. We haven't learned to put it into action because we're so caught up on our excuse and our lie. L-I-E. If we lay our lie down and pick up the faith instead, fear will be drove out.
Yes, God.
Because every time you use your lie, every time you use your excuse, what you're really doing is covering yourself in fear and containing yourself instead of opening up to faith and saying, Lord, use me. Here I am. Every time he gives you an opportunity, he comes and knocks on your door directly and says, will you be made whole? But he's really saying, will you release your debt? Will you stop spending at all of these clearance sales? Will you stop going to the grocery store and getting too many groceries and letting them spoil? Will you stop going out and buying the new best car or the new next car simply because you need to be shiny and bright and riding through? Can you listen to me for just a little while? These things, he's asking us individually because collectively he needs us all to work together. But if one of us is paralyzed, immobile, in a state that I can't move, that means fear has me wrapped up tight.
That's right. That's right.
And I can't let anything in because I think she's going to think less of me. When in reality, if we give it back to him, tight was never what he meant for us to be. Listen, your faith breaks curses. Because many of us walking around with some things on us from grandma and grandpa. I'll say it many and many times. But if we can find a way to apply our faith to break those things which they say we inherit, it stops with you and it will never proceed any further because you found the solution to the problem. Meaning you many times are the solution to the problem, but how many times are you willing to ask for help? Faith, watch this, it builds your family. We're lost. And I'm be honest, a lot of us black folks don't know anybody past our grandma or maybe their great grandma.
That's right.
But do you know God is a good God and he'll bring you in a presence with someone who looks like your cousin, and you be like, oh, I gotta ask these folks, but they ain't never been to the family reunion. Right. But God is so good, he'll bring people in your midst who may just be your family pedigree, your real family, and you never know. But here it is, you walked and talked together for years. That's the God that I know. He'll build families back together even when you didn't know they existed. Your faith, it lies in your tongues. But the one thing that we have to do is put it into action. Actions must follow. If it first hits your head, it has to sink into your heart. And it has to come through your hands because this is the work. This is where it's done.
That's good.
Faith applied. Faith applied. Every time you apply faith, you build another level. You don't just build self, you build somebody else. Faith applied. Don't let your lies override your faith. When we read our word, we find out everything that he can and will do for us. Why? He will. I think this is Reggie's favorite. He said, the promises of God are yes and amen. Why? Because in us, he placed his Holy Spirit. The promises came from God through Jesus is the yes. He's waiting on us, the Holy Spirit within us, to give us back the amen so he can simply be glorified.
Yes, God. Yes.
Listen. Faith and fear, we know they're first cousins, right? So are life and death. But life and death are in the power of your faith, and fear is in the power of your why can't we use it the right way?
Come on.
It's good.
See, a lot of the things that we've been tasked with, we see it as death. Death by the poolside. And he sat for 38 years in a position paralyzed, immobile. He could never make it into the pool in time. Was his excuse. It was his fear. But if he had wholeheartedly believed, because he was committed, understand he was committed to get into the pool, he just couldn't make it.
That's right. That's good.
But sometimes when you're committed to a cause and God sees your efforts, because he saw him lying there, and he knew it been in that state for an extended period of time, he'll come and see about you because you was committed. But when your actions fell short, he said, don't worry. You're in the house of grace and mercy. You already are sitting at the mercy seat because you are low. You are humble. There's no further place for you to go. There's no more that you can be broken. You're already at your weakest state. So when he blesses you and he heals you in this position, and the naysayers and the onlookers and those who are sitting in the porches, they will talk. But it's not for you to worry about the naysayers and the Judaizers and those who want to simply condemn you for your faith, because your faith applied, it worked. Your faith applied overcame. Your faith applied got you into a position that you didn't think you were able to be in. Getting up and walking away. In 3 words, 3 statements. Pick up your mat and walk. Pick up your bed and walk. he was healed instantly. What is it that we're looking for to be done instantly? But we have to really apply and commit. You may or may not be able to see this. But this is faith. And if we're not careful, and I only started at 0 AD. I didn't go back before Christ, but I want you to understand something. He impressed this on me so much, and I wanted to be hard-headed. I'm going to show you how I want to be hard-headed. I wanted to go to Walmart and buy a nice white poster board, because that's what we use, a white poster board. Ooh, it's so classic. No, he said get black. Thank you. He says, get a black poster board and cut it out in the shape, we call it a headstone. Because faith is dying in our society. And the less times that we actually apply it, it falls further and further and further down. Now, yes, it all culminates to sin because it's simply disobedience. But because faith is dying, it's because of anything that you're letting override your faith, your lies and your excuses. So you can say, oh, I was laying here in the bed and I just didn't feel like going. Lie. You just didn't feel like being bothered, or you just want to say, oh, I didn't have the tithe and offering, so I ain't going. It happens. We'll find any little excuse not to go. Oh, I don't like such and so. And she had on my dress last week, but I ain't going. It ain't about you. It's about Christ.
That's right.
See, we'll let bitterness, unforgiveness, unbelief, hatred, and et cetera come in and kill every little ounce of faith that we have. It's not about us. But if we're not careful, faith is going to end up in the graveyard, and we're just going to be standing here preaching to the pews. Because we allow everything to come in and kill what good thing we know about God, what good thing we know about the Lord, what good thing we know about Christ, and everything that he can do will override it. And at the end, at this parable, he says, Jesus tells the man, he says, take up that bed and walk. And he found him later in the temple, and he told the man, behold, thou art made whole. Did we not just finish singing this? I want to be made whole. I want to be right. I want to be saved. Do you not believe that after this encounter with the Lord that this man was saved, because he can then call him Jesus? Sometimes your encounter in your situation, your simple position is for you to have an interaction with God. An interaction with Jesus, but how many of us are allowing him in? See, he had stealed away to a temple, a place he probably hadn't been in over 38 years. But here it is now, he's in the temple. And here it is, Jesus finds him and says, hey, you know what you did to get in that state. Don't return or something worse can happen. Graveyard. Many times we don't heed the warning simply because he'll veer us to the left or veer us to the right to miss something, but we can end up in the graveyard. We can't let our sins, we can't let our lies, we can't let the excuses take us from what we know to be true. We can't let faith die in 2020 or 2050 or 2090. We have to do now the important things to keep it moving. Faith is not just about one person or one believer, one Christian. Faith is about all Christians, simply because that's what we believe in, Christ. Everything that he did was in faith. And we have that same faith walking around. We have to apply it each and every opportunity we have. Can you imagine if I had walked in here with a whiteboard and that's not what he told me to do? God is so good about me not getting a whiteboard, he didn't allow any white poster boards to even be loose in the store. All they had was black. I'm going to tell you what else about faith. I've been asking him to teach me how to get off notes, how to trust what he's put in me. When I went to print out my notes this evening, I want to show you because I'm not lying and I tried to do it more than twice. It looks just fine on the computer. I wish I could walk up to the camera and show you, but this is so much jibber jabber and little letters and just little icons. My printer has never, ever not printed properly. But Kenya, did you apply your faith? You asked earlier for him to use you. But here it is, I'm trying to print out something in a reprobate state. Because I want to lie beside the pool to be dependent upon my mat instead of being dependent upon my faith.
Yeah.
So he showed me, I'm going to take over.
Yeah.
Can we allow him to do something? Listen, sit down. I'm literally done. We got to level up our faith. And the only way we can level up our faith is really understanding that faith is an action and a process that must be trusted to receive all, not some, all future blessings, miracles, and inheritances. Because we are kings and we are queens. We have an inheritance. To get there, we got to apply the faith.
Great word.